Welcome to the Living Ageless and Bold podcast. Each episode, I bring you amazing women who inspire, educate, and share their experiences and journeys along the way. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's relax and have some fun hearing what can be accomplished after 55. Hey, everybody. Okay, this is our first international guest. I'm really excited. Rahir is joining us from Spain, a country I can't wait to go to. But I'm really inspired by her story, and I know that you all will be too. She was a career journalist and at 50 was diagnosed with MS. And instead of listening to her doctors, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do, but she kind of did her own thing and really got into fitness and particularly weight training. And we're going to talk about that. And she now empowers menopausal women to ditch the diet, start doing, she's got a 15-minute a day kind of program. So we're going to learn all about that today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all the work that you do.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm really excited. But I want to talk a little bit because you are 60. I don't know if I mentioned you were diagnosed when you were 50. So that's a lot of this podcast is this next chapter. But I'd like to talk about how you got to where you are today, because it really does inspire our younger listeners too. And even those coming up with the next chapter, like, oh, I can do this at 50 or 60, or we had a woman in her 80s who was doing something. So let's go back in time a little bit and talk about your journalism career.
Yeah, I'd love to. And absolutely, it's never too late to start anything. And I think you have to reach a certain age to understand that or to really feel it in your bones. I was a journalist for 20 years. I married a journalist and we were traveling around the world, moving every 4 years. He had the job, the career, and I worked as a freelancer all the time. So I followed him around and we lived, in the Middle East and in all kinds of beautiful European towns. And it was hard in the way that I always had to start from zero, but I also had much more liberty. I could go talk to people that you can't talk to when you're the bureau chief. You have to do so much stuff, and I would just sort of read the paper, listen to the radio, find the interesting stories. And I remember once we had the incredible opportunity to travel to Saudi Arabia, which is basically impossible when you're a journalist, and even more impossible when you're a journalist and a woman. But it was after the attacks on Dhahran, on the US base there. And I think the Americans told the Saudis, you have to open a window, you have to let people in just for 24 hours. So really, we threw stuff into a suitcase, we rushed to the airport, and we nearly didn't get in. And it took a couple of phone calls. And then when we were in Saudi, I could actually talk to women, business women, a doctor, an accountant, something that would have been totally impossible for my husband. He would have to stick with the official people and spokespeople, and I could go and talk to the people. So that was fun, and I loved reporting like this. I loved discovering things like that, but I also felt that I was somehow lacking a little bit of recognition and respect. When you get married, you follow your husband around, and then you move to the Middle East like we did, from one day to the next, you're the wife, and you have to fight really hard to make people understand that you're not just someone, sipping cocktails by the pool because your husband has a foreign assignment.
Great job. Right. Fascinating. So how many different places have you lived?
Oh, we started in Dubai, then we went to Paris, always went back to Paris because that was home base for my husband. Went to Vienna. 2 of my kids were born in Vienna, because I forgot to mention we had 3 kids in the process, and we actually dragged them around the world as well. So Berlin, and then we moved to Madrid. And then when my husband retired, we decided to stay here because it's so lovely.
Yeah, I can't wait to visit. It's on my bucket list. So what a glamorous career. And then you get this diagnosis when you're 50. So tell us how that went.
Yes. It actually started before. It's an entire saga, but I'm going to give you like the short version. So we moved to Berlin. That was when I was 45, or I turned 45 that year. I had 3 kids. The oldest was 10. And I had found a job in Berlin too. So for the first time, we both had like a full-blown career. And I was so happy. I thought, yes, I have made it back into like this, respected part of journalism. I'm not the free electron anymore. I like have a position. But I had 3 kids too, and it was shift work that I did. And I think I was probably wearing myself out, but I didn't realize that. I thought I had made it. And I had been raised also in a very conservative family and conservative environment at the time, where a career woman was an insult. When I was a teenager, you had to choose between kids and a job. And I was there and I thought, this is it, the pinnacle. I have both, and a lovely family and a great job. Yeah. And then one day I was picking up my kids from school and I noticed that I was seeing double. And that's pretty serious, When you have like a bit of a niggle in the knee, or your lower back hurts from sitting, you can ignore your way out of that. I couldn't deny that. I had to go to the doctor. They sent me to the hospital. I ended up spending 6 weeks in hospital because they were looking at what was wrong. And this was my first autoimmune episode, actually, because I had various symptoms. They couldn't make up their mind how to call it, because at the beginning I was seeing double. And then after 3 weeks, my legs were entirely paralyzed. I couldn't move. I was bedridden. I could not do a thing. I couldn't wiggle a toe. It was really
And just like
scary.
that, 1 minute you're fine. That's
yes.
Wow.
It really struck me out of everything. For me, that was, at the time it was scary, and it was like a dark time. But now I'm quite grateful, because it taught me, what so many women have, that they think if you're not there, everything's going to end, nothing's going to work. You have to look after the family and the home and your job and everything. And, you can't delegate or whatever, because you have to do everything. And I learned the hard way that, you're out of it from one day to the next, and the world just keeps on turning. Nothing happens. My mom came, looked after my kids, just nothing happened. I came home for Christmas. There was a tree, there were gifts, there was everything. I hadn't done any of those because I couldn't. And I think that gave me a much more relaxed attitude afterwards, when it came to, do I have to do everything? Am I in charge of this? Am I in charge of that? I could just let go so much more easily, because I also found and discovered what's essential in life and what isn't. Because when you can't walk, then, all of a sudden these small things that I used to get worked up about, no. Yeah. So this, I came out of the hospital. I was in a wheelchair. I started walking with crutches. I learned to walk again. And after a year of a bit of treatment, I was told I was fine. And then another year went by. We moved to Paris again. And then I felt my left hand going numb. And I knew this wasn't good. Went straight to the doctor, and they first thought it might have been something similar, some kind of autoimmune, because yes, what I had, they made up their mind. They said it was a syndrome Guillain-Barré, one off, comes, goes, and you're fine. So they thought maybe it's something similar, but then they checked and they said, no, this is an attack on the white matter in the nerves. So if this happens again, you're an MS patient. And then, you have to wait for a relapse. I was praying that I wouldn't get one, telling myself, no. And then after some time, I noticed that something was wrong. I did a weird yoga pose, felt some tingling in my spine, and I knew right away, this is not good. So then I was an MS patient, officially declared. And the doctor said, that's lifelong treatment.
And what is treatment involved? Is that medication or?
Yes, that was injecting myself 3 times a week, which is it doesn't sound like much, but it starts getting, like really impacting your quality of life. First of all, because I got flu-like symptoms from this, which is well known. So 3 times a week, you feel like, you have a headache, you feel tired and achy, and like your limbs are heavy. And also the injection sites, you can only, do that to your skin so many times before it
Right.
starts reacting.
Right.
And I got like big red rashes on my skin. So I didn't want to inject me on visible sites like the arms. And then that reduces the number of sites and the skin gets like really sore and it's quite unpleasant. And I did that for a total of 4 years, I think. And then I was allowed to stop.
So what got you into the fitness side of it? I read all of your stuff. It's like throw the diets away, but what made you think? And it's interesting because in my 50s, I think I'm the healthiest now than I've ever been because I'm more aware. I'm very careful of what I put into my body. I do weights. I do cardio every day. Like it's all part of it, and we're learning more. But to be diagnosed with MS and then say, nah, no more medication. I'm going to try this. But it worked.
It did. Well, the medication, when the doctor told me, lifelong treatment, he was just writing the prescription, was going to send me on my way. And I said, hey, hang on a minute. Can we talk about this? I fought with him for an hour and I had to give in. And then I asked him, can I exercise? I had a habit of going to the gym, but in this typical way where you want to stay in shape, you want to maybe change the way your body looks, you want to make sure you don't gain weight and stuff like this. And I think this goes back to the time when I was in hospital and I couldn't walk, because it really feels like when you can't use your body, you lose your dignity. You can't decide anything. In hospital, you don't decide, when the lights turn on in your room, when you go to sleep, when you wake up. I couldn't even decide when I wanted to take a shower or go to the toilet. And I think this created this new desire in me to become physically strong and able again. That's why I asked him if I could exercise, the doctor, the first one. And he was very non-committal and said, yeah, but be careful. And I thought, come on, that can't be it. And I was lucky because I talked to a nurse who explained how to use the injection thing. And I asked her and she said, oh, exercise is great. It makes you fatigue resistant. And that's a big problem for MS patients. So that was my green light. I then found a book, one of the first books that said, I think it was at the end of the 90s, that book, I found it later, women should lift heavy. And I thought, this is it. I want to be strong. And I'm convinced that this desire to be physically strong, I couldn't refuse the treatment. And lifelong treatment means you're giving away a part of your power because you're dependent on something. And I think this desire came from me wanting my power back, at least in one part of my life, and my physical ability and feeling strong. I think that's where this came from, this drive. And then with that book, which was absolutely great, I just started lifting heavier and heavier, and I got so much better. There were reflexes in the body, when then the nerves get attacked by your immune system, they go away. Like this one where your leg shoots out when you hit the front of the knee. They had told me, those are never going to come back. And they all did. I mean, I was getting better and better and better. And my checkups, my neurological checkups were just, oh yeah, okay. Hi, good to see you. Be on your way. And it's here in Spain that I found a doctor who started by prescribing the same treatment, because that's standard practice, actually. And when I asked him after 4 years if I could suspend it for 3 weeks because we're going camping, and I said, I don't want to take this injection apparatus with me. I'm going to go camping. It's somehow, it's cumbersome also to take it on a plane and stuff. Can I suspend? And he said, if you want to stop for good, I'm happy to support you in this. If you don't want to do this, if you're afraid, that you might get a relapse if you stop the treatment, that's fine. But if you want to stop it, I'm with you. And I said, hell
was
yes.
That because things had changed? Like they knew more about the disease, that maybe you didn't have to be on it for life? Or was he seeing you improving because you were working out and just all around healthier?
I think it was both. Because he didn't say anything until I said, hell yes, I want to stop. And then at the end of the conversation, he said, nowadays we're not really totally sure if this treatment is effective. I checked this recently and I think it's still in use. And I suppose that because MS is different for every single person. So depending on, what yours is like, it might be helpful. I don't know. But I was very grateful for him being so honest, because he might as well have thought, I'm not going to say anything because she's going to think that I gave her the wrong thing or something. He was just honest and said, we're not sure this is effective. And for me, that was super helpful, because I didn't have to be afraid that I was getting better because of the treatment, and if I stopped, I was going to get worse. That gave me some faith. And if I, felt so much better, maybe it was not because of the treatment, but because of what I did.
So then, did you dive in even more into working out and weights, just to kind of overcompensate?
No, I didn't do that.
Right.
I really felt strong. What's interesting, and that goes back to what you said at the beginning, this all took another turn for the better when we moved to Spain, because the doctor let me get off my treatment. I signed up for stuff with friends at the gym that I would never have done before, like obstacle races, mud races, stuff like that. And one day I was working with a PT, and he said, "Do you want to try Olympic weightlifting?" And I only had this memory that as a child we watched, like these huge men in this like ridiculous leotards.
Yeah, right. I remember that.
When it was the Olympic Games, because otherwise, you would never see that sport on TV. It's not very attractive. And also I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And I'm sure in my 30s, I would not have done that. And same thing. I loved it. I loved it so much that I signed up with a weightlifting club. I left the commercial gym. I went to the real thing where there's no mirrors, no music, just tons of iron and a coach, writing a program for you. And after 2 weeks, they asked me if I wanted to compete. 2 weeks training there. They said, "Do you want to compete?"
And how old are you at this point?
55.
Yes. I love that. I love that.
Yes. And there was another woman there. She's still, we're still training together. She's a year older than me. She was competing, and they said, "Look at her." And I said, okay, same thing. I really think I wouldn't have said yes to competing in my 30s. I would have thought, oh, one more thing to worry about, another thing, that puts pressure on you. And now it's just fun. It's exciting. It's scary. It's challenging. It's exhilarating. It's just amazing. And just like you, I feel I've never been stronger before in my life. And now I'm 60.
That's great. So tell us about the competition that you won.
Well, that was last year. I started my very first competition was 2019. And it was so exciting that I felt like crying all of the time. Not because I was sad. It was just the emotions were so strong. That's why, if you ever get a chance to do something that causes those strong emotions go there, because you feel so alive. So I went to a European Championship the very first year, that because I was strong and because, I have a certain age, I actually made the minimum requirement for an international competition. And I went to European Championships every year. And last year I went and I won. It was absolutely amazing. And, I never thought of myself as someone who could win things. It's weird. So, even when you're not, 20, when you're 60, you can change. You can also change the way you see yourself. You become a different person. You evolve all the time. And there I was, European champion. Sometimes now when we're training, my coach still says, "Hey, you're a European champion. So, don't whine or don't complain about whatever I'm giving, you." And I have to remind myself, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. And I love at what stage it happened in your life. And what I love too, and I'm finding this, we go to doctors and they have this protocol, they're doctors, that's what they have to do, but you have to be proactive in your own health and wellness. And, and I've had many doctors who are like, "You have to take this medication. You'll never get off this medication." I'm like, I don't want to be on medication the rest of my life. Like you said, can you give me a month? Let me do a month. Let me change my diet. Let me change my workouts. And, like I had high blood pressure that they said would never go down, and it's perfectly fine now.
Yes.
So, but I was proactive, and my mother's like that. My mother was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, didn't want to take the medication. And I mean, she's regulated it for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years through diet and exercise. And
Yes.
she checks her numbers. So that's just a good, I think as we get older too, we get more confident to ask questions.
Yes, and I want to encourage, every woman who listens to us, if you have conversations with your doctors, we are entitled to be totally informed and understand. And I speak to many women who come back from the doctors. They say, I have this, I don't even know what it is. And I have to take this. I don't even know what it is. And I don't think that we should settle for this. You want to ask all the questions until you are happy and confident that you understand what's going on. Then if you want to follow the doctor's advice, I'm not going to say don't do what the doctor
Of
says.
course not.
Not
Right.
at all. But your choice must
Ask
be
questions.
informed.
Yeah.
You want to know. It's your body. It's your health. Don't you want to find out what exactly they're talking about? I talked to a lady last week who said, oh, yeah, I have a problem with my blood panel and I'm going to go again. And then if it's still not good, then they're going to do I don't know what. And I said, well, yeah, but what does this mean when this one value is down? What's the risk of this? And she said, I don't know. Says, you didn't ask? No, I didn't. You advocate for yourself. Ask the questions.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. So, and let's talk about what you're doing. You're working with, menopause, as we're all going through it, is causing mayhem in our bodies. I had a doctor on. We talked about, because a girlfriend of mine had said, "Yeah, my cholesterol is through the roof because I hit menopause." I'm like, that can't be true. Well, the doctor confirmed. She's like, "Oh yeah, it is." But then there are things you can do to do that. So I'd love to hear, how you're working with women in terms of, and I love how you said, ditch the diet, because forget the diet. I've said that forever. It's got to be a lifestyle that you live. It can't be a
Absolutely.
diet.
Absolutely. And that's something also that changed in my perspective when I started training in order to become strong, because then this whole idea of shrinking and cutting things out and becoming smaller, and which then means weaker, don't work anymore. You really change your approach to nutrition and want to, make it nourishing, asking yourself, what kind of foods will actually help me perform? And I think, and this is really important, yes, hormones, they play havoc with how we feel at that age, but there's a huge part of lifestyle that is involved, and a lot of things that you can actually do actively to feel better. It's all connected. Sometimes, I know it's not totally true, but sometimes I think most of menopausal shenanigans start because our sleep goes so bad. So we sleep becomes like really lousy. That causes the mood swings, the brain fog, the low energy. So we move less because we're so tired. So we gain weight. It's not, there are no single causalities, but that's like a big part of the problem. And that's something that you can address. What I do is I help women start training for strength. Even if you've never done anything, I'm going to get you moving at your level, because the knock-on effects of strength training are just mind-blowing. It's like, I call it the one-stop shop, because you will have more energy in a matter of like 2 weeks. You will feel like a different person. Your metabolism will work better, and that includes blood sugar management. It's not only about, fat burning. It's also about blood sugar. Your joints will be healthier. Your bones will get loaded, and thus you can prevent bone loss. And then there's this huge effect of training on mental health, which will then, everything will create momentum. You will feel better, more confident, and that means you will want to do more, you will move more, you'll be more energetic, and it creates like a virtuous cycle. And I'm a strong believer that because especially if you're overwhelmed, you think, I have no time, I have no energy, I have no motivation. If you can start with these like 15 minutes a day that I suggest, you can create enormous, tremendous change from just that.
So let's talk about, because you talked about that you did the heavy weight training. So for example, my husband and I both went to the gym. We had trainers before COVID, and we didn't lose any weight. Like nothing happened. And then COVID came, and we kind of created our own workout that I keep telling we now, though I've seen it on the Today Show where you walk with weights. So we'll go 3 miles, and you start out with 1 pound weights. People think, oh, this is so easy. Like I'm up to 5 pounds now. He's up to 6 pounds, but is that enough? Or should I be pushing, trying to lift 20 pounds or 25 pounds? Like how you're training these 15 minutes, is it better to do a little bit, a lot, or a lot, a little bit?
The trick is, I think the 15 minutes are crucial when it comes to getting started and to lowering your resistance to that change in your life. If you're like very tired, unmotivated, and you haven't done any strength training ever, or you haven't done it in 10 or 20 years, and you set out to go to the gym 3 times a week to train for an hour, that's just the obstacles that you have to overcome to get there. The number of decisions that you have to take just to make that happen. It's just too much, and you're not going to go through with it. It's going to be extremely hard. So I want to lower the threshold. And then the 15 minutes, you want to start where you are at. That's really also extremely important for midlife women. So you cannot do just any old program. You have to find out, how strong and how mobile you are at this point in life, and then work with a program that challenges you enough to deal with that, but just that doesn't get you injured or discouraged or something like this. Now, why is 15 minutes enough? First of all, because we train all the movements that, you execute every day in life, picking stuff up from the floor or bending, pushing, pulling, carrying, these things, which will give you more energy and more strength to move more all through the day. And I think this is something we cannot underestimate. Our bodies are optimized for movement. So even if you just train 15 minutes a day, and then the rest of the day you're sitting and you don't change your eating habits, yes, you're going to get stronger. You're going to feel much, much better. But when we're talking about weight loss, you will have to do a little bit more. But the 15 minutes will actually sort of propel you and help you be moving more every day. And you will not shy away from movement. You will feel just confident, roll with your grandkids on the floor or whatever it is, and you will not sort of stand back. What happens is sometimes people sign up for training, they train 3 times a week, and then they think, oh, I went to training, so today I can eat more. Like people think, oh, I took 10,000 steps, I can have a piece of cake. And I think it's very important to understand that the way the human body is built, when we have 10,000 steps and we do some heavy lifting or pushing or pulling, any kind of activity that's a physical effort, where we have to overcome some kind of resistance, that's our baseline. That's the minimum that we need to stay healthy and to control our weight. So it's not like when we have walked for an hour that we have to replenish with a piece of cake right away. No, we were made for moving a lot throughout the day, and that's what we need as a minimum to be healthy and happy and manage our weight.
Do you have like one tip for exercise and one tip for nutrition that you could give people? Like if you were just going to start something today, what would be one on both of those aspects?
In exercise, I'd encourage you to start with body weight exercises. Take the big movements like pushing. I can give you an example. In pushing, the big push movement is a push-up, where many women would say, oh my God, I can't do this. I will never be able to do this. Take that movement and scale it to your skill level. So maybe start with a wall push-up, and then take it from there, take it deeper and deeper until you can do a full push-up. So that's how, use a big movement. Don't do bicep curls with 1 pound weights. Use a big functional movement like a push, like you're pushing a car, right? Wall push-up, and, scale it to where you're at, and then make it more and more difficult. And for nutrition, it's just, what actually does your body need? Build your meal with that question in mind, not with this question that we have, What can I do today for variety? What new taste experience can I create? What do I feel like eating today? I know this is very human and it's fun, but if you really want to look after your health and your weight, be intentional about creating a meal that really helps your body thrive, which means protein and vegetables. And then if you move a lot in the day, you need a bit of carbs, and that's it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And it really is easy. And once you start to do it, like I said, and I had my blood work came back terrible. It's like, okay, let me shift some things. It's really not that hard and you're, like you said, your body gets used to it. You start to sleep better. When you sleep better, everything works out great. So
you get better at everything when you sleep better.
And tell everybody what your website is so they can check you out. And you have some amazing testimonials on their women in their 60s and their 70s. It's like, just get started. It really is. You're really helping a lot of women with that.
Yeah, just get started. Absolutely. Don't push it away. Don't say when this happens, I will do something, when I have more time or something. So my website is kimrahir.com. And you can take a health and strength assessment on there, where you can actually establish this, point where you are at right now. Find out what would be the best thing for you to do next. Where could you start right now? And it's not just a strength thing where I ask you how many push-ups can you do. It's like a holistic view of your situation, your health and your strength. And it's a great tool to find out, what could your best next step be.
I love that. We'll have everything in the show notes too, so people can just click on it. And we wrap up every show with the same 2 questions. What is the greatest thing you have accomplished since you've turned 50?
I think the greatest thing I have accomplished since I turned 50 is to be lifting every week with joy, like training my body and never ever questioning or debating in my head, do I want to go? Because I just go. And I think this is a switch from, having this eternal discussion in your brain. I just do it, like the slogan says, and I'm very proud of that.
Oh, congratulations. I do. I love that for you. And then where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I hope really that I will still be going to competitions, that I will be traveling to all kinds of countries and show up for the weigh-in and then go to the platform and lift even in 10 years. I would love to be that person.
Oh, amazing. Well, we wish you the best of luck. And thank you for coming on and really inspiring women. I want you to check out her website, and just those little changes are the big changes. And you are just an absolute inspiration. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Really had a great time talking to you.
Thank you for listening or for watching this episode of Living Ageless and Bold. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit subscribe. And if you like the episode, I hope that you will give us a great review. You can also head over to livingagelessandbold.com and sign up for information, inspiration, and exclusive opportunities for us, women over 55. Thanks for listening. And remember, no matter what you do, keep living ageless and bold.